What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So we're going to do the timeline today. So we have the executive order. We have the four different parts of this memorandum. So we're going to go over it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to let you know the different timelines. If you watch previous videos that I put out, I'll post a link up here so you can check them out if you want to know more details about the different memorandums. But for right now, I just want to go over the timelines, and then we're going to watch a video. So Stephen Mnuchin was on yesterday, and he gave out some information as far as negotiation. So where are they going to go when it comes to the next stimulus package? That's what we all want to know. We all want to know what's going on with the next stimulus check and all that. So we'll talk about that. But first, if you guys can hit that like button, I really appreciate it. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that everybody wants to know about is the enhanced unemployment. So we know the enhanced unemployment expired, and it looks like, according to Stephen Mnuchin, he said this yesterday, that it looks like 1 to 2 weeks before most of the states have this figured out as far as how they can make this work. Because remember, this enhanced unemployment is different from the enhanced unemployment that you were receiving before. You're going to be getting $300 from the federal government and $100 from the state. Or they're kind of switching it up now, where the federal government's saying it depends on the state. They can apply, and if they meet qualifications, whatever these qualifications are, then the federal government will pay the full 100%. So we're going to have to see what all that means. But Stephen Mnuchin did say not all of the states are going to be on board, but most of the states will be on board a week to 2 weeks. So that's what you guys are looking at as far as when you might be able to start receiving some enhanced unemployment. Now understand, when it comes to the enhanced unemployment, they are going back to August 1st. And so it'll be retroactive. So you will receive all of that money. Now, when it comes to the enhanced unemployment, the unfortunate part is the budget. They don't have that much money. They have, I think, about $44 billion, and that is going to have to go throughout the whole U.S. So we're looking at a situation where you might be able to get 4 to 5 weeks before that money runs out, just based on how many people are unemployed right now. So that's kind of the way that we're looking at this whole situation. There could very possibly be a situation where you don't get weekly checks. You just get one check at the end of this. Because if you look at the timeline right now, it's August 11th. So we only have a couple of weeks before the end of the month. So if you're looking at that and he's saying 1 to 2 weeks, well, that means they'll be online in 1 to 2 weeks. So they might be able to start sending those checks out. But that following week, that puts you into 4 to 5 weeks, because you have to start from August 1st and go to September 1st. That'll be a whole month. That'll be 4 weeks. So they might run out of money before they even get started. So you might just get one check for $1,600, and then it'll expire, and then we'll have to see what we can do when it comes down to it. Now, I know people have been saying that it doesn't end until, the expiration date is December. No, the expiration date is December or until the money runs out. And we already know how much money they have allocated, and we already know kind of around about how many people are unemployed. So that's what we'll be looking at when it comes down to that. So the next thing I want to talk about is the payroll tax deferral. So right now, we're looking at September 1st. That's when it will start. We don't know if businesses are going to be on board when it comes to this. They might not want to just open this up and allow employees to receive this additional 6.5% or 7%. They might not want to do that, because then they'll be on the hook to pay that back to the federal government. Right now, it's just a loan. Okay, it's just a loan. It's not forgiven. Now, the president did say that he would consider forgiving it if he gets reelected, and then he would consider making it permanent as well. So right now, it's a loan, and so that's what a lot of people need to understand. If you do receive this money, you might have to pay it back. So be careful. And that's all I can say when it comes to that. My opinion, this is not the way to do things. There are a lot of politicians that are against this whole payroll tax cut or payroll tax deferral because it takes money from Social Security. Even though President Trump did say, no, it's going to come from the general fund. Well, if it's going to come from the general fund, take it from the general fund now. That way people don't have to be in fear that it's going to be a loan and not be forgiven. So take it from the general fund now if you have the funding, and then we don't have to worry about this. But that's where we are when it comes down to it. Next thing I want to talk about, student loans. So student loans, it's just going to continue to the end of the year. So it's in place right now. It expires on September 30th, but it will just continue. until the end of the year, so you don't have to worry about that. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the eviction moratorium. It's not really an eviction moratorium. It's an eviction assistance. So they will assist you and try to help you not get evicted, but you are still open to be evicted. So this is one of those situations where people might think the moratorium is still in place. The moratorium kept you from being evicted, but this is not going to keep you from being evicted. It's just going to help. The federal government will step in. They'll use the programs that they already have in place to try to keep you from being evicted, but you can still be evicted. Very, very important to understand that. So that's what's in the executive order right now. Those are the timelines. Now we're going to take a look at this video. Stephen Mnuchin is talking about future negotiations and where they might go. So let's take a look.
Obviously, there is some limit to what we can borrow. We're not at it now. And the president is determined to spend what we need to spend. The $3 trillion we spent plus $1 trillion more, that's about 20% of GDP. I mean, that's just absolutely historic. And we're prepared to put more money on the table. So where there are things, as I said, that made sense to compromise, we've compromised. So we're not stuck at the $1 trillion, but we're not going to go to unlimited amounts of money.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. So you did hear Stephen Mnuchin say that they're open to compromise. So they're open to go higher than $1 trillion. So this is good. This is good news. This means that at least they understand that $1 trillion mark needs to go up higher. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer on the Democrat side, they were saying, okay, we'll come down from $3 trillion to $2 trillion. And they still were not able to make a deal when it came down to it. So it looks like right now, or it looks like back then, last week, basically, not too long ago, Stephen Mnuchin didn't even want to go to the $2 trillion. So we'll see if they want to move closer to that number.
To do things that don't make sense.
But it's not unlimited. I mean, I think that's hyperbole, Mr. Secretary. How about $3 trillion, $1 trillion, you split it. You go to $2 trillion, or maybe you go to $1.8 trillion. But certainly, if this is a war, we can't split hairs. It's unfortunate.
Jim, we're splitting things that make sense to split. So let me be clear. You know, if I had started at zero and they had started at 10 trillion, would that have made sense to do a $5 trillion deal? Of course not. Okay,
so and the example that he uses doesn't make any sense. Because if I start at zero, that means I don't want whatever it is if I'm starting at zero. So if he started at zero and then the other person started at 10 trillion, then you don't meet in the middle of 5 trillion. But if I'm telling you I don't want it, then there's no negotiating. Like I'm at zero. That's where I'm starting. So who starts a negotiation at zero? You go to buy a car. Do you start at zero? No, you usually start at something. So I don't agree with the example that he used. It's that's what we're talking about. And what was talked about is he said, 3 trillion, 1 trillion, meet in the middle at 2 trillion. That makes logical sense. Most people would look at that and say, yeah, you know what? That's usually how things go. But I think Stephen Mnuchin and Mark Meadows, they're too tied up in, well, where's all this money going? We got to make sure it goes to the right places. And that's okay, but I want to know the overall number, because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said this. They said, look, if we go down to 2 trillion, we still want to put some of the same things in there, but we'll just have a shorter time frame. So that's the way that you can save money. So if you have an amount, so if they say, okay, we'll agree to 2 trillion, now we're just working on how long can we provide these services, and then that they can figure it out that way. So that's why I think they're really trying to push. Okay, is it 1 trillion? If it's 1 trillion, okay, this is the stuff we can bring in, and this is how long we can have these different programs intact. So that's what they're focused on right now. I think Stephen Mnuchin and Mark Meadows, they're more interested in, well, what's in it? What are you putting in here? Because I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. Which, like I said, that's fine. But you still need to know that overall number. That's very, very important. And so the state and local government funding, that is what's really being talked about right now. That 1 trillion is that $1 trillion number is something that they're not comfortable with. The Republicans aren't comfortable with. Now, the way I look at it, this is money that's going to state and local government, and it's going to be helping out people in the state. So it's not something that's going straight to politicians. It's not like money that goes to, you have some business, like the difference between giving money to a business and giving money to government. Government can't just take the money and close up shop and leave. Businesses can do that. And they've done that in the past where they receive money. And with that money, they say, okay, yeah, you know what? We can't really operate. We're going to pay our CEOs and our top administrators a bunch of money. And then we're going to dissolve the company and move on. And then the employees are the ones that really suffer. The state and local governments can't do that. They can only make a certain amount of money, and they don't make that much compared to a CEO of a business. So they can only make a certain amount of money. And the majority of the money that's going to be going to these state and local governments is going to be going to the employees. And so that's what right now, that's the big holdup right now. The big holdup is this money going to state and local governments. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't agree with it. I think that we obviously know that we're in a situation where we have this virus here and it's causing things to be shut down. It's causing businesses to be shut down. Businesses are getting money. They got over $1 trillion. The businesses did. So why not take care of the states? So let's go ahead and continue.
So you don't just split the difference. What you do is you go line by line. You say, let's agree where we can agree. And you're right. On things where we agree but we're apart on money, we split the difference. Things like food, I listened to the speaker over the weekend. She's right. We started low on food. We realized there's a lot of kids out there that there's an issue. So we agreed on more than enough money for this year and through most of next year on food. We didn't make long-term policy changes in the middle of COVID. So we did that. And we can go down the list, and that's what we've done. But what we're not going to do is say where there's really bad policy ideas, we're not going to just split the difference.
When are you guys planning on getting back together to talk? Do you have any idea?
Again, I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the logistics of negotiations because I don't think that that's helpful. There's a deal to do if the Democrats are reasonable and want to compromise. And if their attitude is, we'd rather give you nothing than agree on things, then we're not going to get a deal. But I heard Pelosi over the weekend and Schumer, and I think they're willing to compromise. So, again, if we can get a fair deal, we'll do it this week. But the president needed to take action. He's not going to sit around. We left the meeting on Friday. Mark Meadows and I reported back to him that we were nowhere, and that's why he moved forward.
All right, so that's the end of the video there. So what do you guys think? I mean, you saw there, obviously Stephen Mnuchin hasn't talked to Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer because he basically said it, like he heard that they are open to negotiating, which they never shut that down. They, even up until Friday, they were still saying that they would hope that they would continue the dialogue, but it was the White House that just said, no, you know what, we're going to go ahead and go forward with an executive order. So we'll see where it goes from this point. No talks of stimulus checks. Obviously, that's something that all sides want, a stimulus check for the people. But right now, it's on hold, and it's on hold because the executive order pretty much shut down the negotiations. And so now I'm thinking the White House is going to realize, maybe in the next couple of weeks, they will realize that they need to get something done as far as the negotiation. I still think that this executive order was a bluff and they were hoping that it would work, but now they see that this is a situation where it's going to be hard to get going. It's going to be hard to get the enhanced unemployment out before it expires. I mean, realistically, it's going to be hard to get it out before it expires. And when you have people realize that it's only for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, they're going to be very, very upset. They're going to be like, what are you guys doing? Why don't we get a real bill together? Why are we just doing this executive order for 4 to 5 weeks? And now people are going to be stressing out again. So when they find that out, when they find out this payroll tax cut is a loan and we don't know if it's going to be forgiven and some businesses might not want to participate in it, then they're not going to see, the employees aren't going to see any changes in their paycheck. They're going to be like, well, what was the executive order for? And so These things they're going to cause some problems in the near future. And I think the White House is going to realize this, and they're going to want to jump back in and do negotiations as soon as possible. And I'm telling you, the Democrats are probably going to get most of what they want at that point, because now you've exhausted everything. You've already used the executive order. You've already used the funding that you had available from the Hurricane Relief Fund, which is crazy in itself, but you already have that funding that you use for the enhanced unemployment. So now where do you go from there? You don't have that executive order that you can use because there's no funding behind it. So I just think in the next couple of weeks, we'll find out what happens. I still think that a stimulus check will be coming because it's something that everybody wants, but we just need to get a package done. If we can get a stimulus package done, it should have that stimulus check in there. As far as hazard pay goes, I'm hoping that is still being negotiated by the Democrats. And that's what we don't know. We don't know what they're discussing. We know the main things that they're discussing. We know state and local government funding. We know they're still talking about stimulus checks. We don't know if they're talking about hazard pay. That's one of the things that's not coming out. As far as what they're saying that they're negotiating about. There might be good reason for that. It might not be on the table, and that's why they're not really talking about it. The Republicans might not want it on the table, so they're not talking about it. So we just don't know. We don't know where that's gonna go. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the interview? What do you guys think about Steve Mnuchin? Do you think we're going to get a deal in the next couple of weeks? We definitely all want stimulus checks. I know that. So we have to hope for the best. Also, what do you think about the executive order? Do you think it's going to work? Do you think it was just a bluff? Do you think now they're kind of caught because they did this bluff and now they're going to have to implement things that they might not have wanted to implement, but they were thinking that maybe they jump right back in and start doing negotiations? Let me know about that. And then also one other thing too, Stephen Mnuchin said that if they work out something this week, then they can move forward. But, what do you think about that? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think they're actually going to work something out this week? Post it down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.